Great. All right, well, hello, everyone. We're going to get started here in just a moment. While we're waiting for folks to join, please go ahead and use the chat function here in Zoom. Maybe tell us who you are, about your organization, maybe where you're located, and we'll get started in just a couple moments. Oh, we're gonna have a good group today, Maryanne. They're coming in fast and furious.
I do feel like I've hit a pain point.
I think you have. This is a great topic. I'm looking forward to it as well. For those of you that have just joined, we'll get started here in just a minute. Take a moment. Why don't you go into the chat function, share a little bit about yourself, your organization, maybe where you're located, and we'll get started shortly.
Hello, everyone. Seattle, Washington, Ontario, Kalamazoo, Northern Virginia, Wisconsin, Kentucky, San Antonio. I love it. This is so exciting.
Great. We got folks from all over.
All right, Casey, I'm St. Louis.
All right, we'll give it another couple of minute here or so, and we'll jump in. All right. Great. All right, so why don't we go ahead and get started, folks? We've got a lot to cover, exciting topic. I want to welcome all of you. I hope you're having a fantastic week. My name is Mary Krogan. I'm the VP of Product Marketing here at Bloomerang, and I'm very excited to host our Thought Leadership webinar today. This is where we bring in amazing folks like our guest, Maryanne to share their expertise and help all of you create thriving nonprofits. So today we're talking about a really important topic, and that's how to turn your board into a lead generating machine. Super excited to dive into this today. But before we get started, let's just take a quick moment here, and we're going to cover off on a couple of housekeeping items. So first of all, we are recording today's session. We get asked that a lot. We are recording the session. You will receive a link to the recording along with the slides via email later today at whatever email address you use to register for today's webinar. So just keep that in mind. Also, we want everyone to submit questions. I would ask as your moderator, if you could use the Q&A functionality in Zoom versus chat to submit your questions. That would just make my life a little easier. I appreciate that. And that way we can cycle through the questions as we go through the presentation with Maryanne today. For those of you that are not familiar with Bloomerang, we are a relationship management platform for nonprofits, and we're focused on making the day-to-day lives of nonprofits easier, both from a fundraising perspective in terms of managing donors and other relationships. And we really strive to help our customers foster very authentic relationships with our constituents so their nonprofits can thrive. So we have great software that helps you acquire and retain and engage your supporters. And I encourage you to take a moment after the webinar, visit us at bloomerang.com and check out our solutions. And if you're so inclined, we'll go ahead and request a demo. But for right now, we're going to focus on the topic at hand and our guest presenter, Maryanne. Welcome, Maryanne.
Hi, it's so good to be here.
It's great to have you. I'm going to drive for Maryanne today. She's having a little bit of technical difficulties on her end, so I'm going to drive and cycle through her presentation for her. So if you hear her prompting me, that's why.
Yes.
I'm going to turn over the microphone to you, Maryanne. Maybe start and give folks a little bit of background.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. I'm so excited. I feel like I said before, I hit a bit of a pain point as far as how we can work better with our boards, and they can be better supporters to your work, and you can create better experiences for them. So like you said, Mary's driving for me. On my laptop decided that enough was enough, and it's in the shop. And I'm on my iPad and I'm functioning great, but she is going to drive the slides for me. Okay, so every presentation I do, I start with a promise. And Mary, do you want to advance for me? And my promise to you is by the end of this presentation, you will have a new perspective on how your board can be better partners with you in generating leads and generating interest and excitement for your organization, and eventually generating dollars. And I'm going to explain to you exactly how that works. And these are things that you can absolutely implement and start working on and talking about today. So at the end of this presentation, I will ask you if I fulfilled that promise. And also at the end of this presentation, I will invite you into a conversation with me if you want to go deeper into any of these things or learn how I could help you implement some of these principles inside your organization. All right, let's keep going. All right, so the problem. Okay, so you didn't know this was a webinar and group therapy, but this is kind of how I roll. Oh, before I start, I saw somebody in the chat, Robin from Huntington Theater. Robin, my brother is a master carpenter at Huntington Theater, so go say hi to him. Larry Dersh. Okay, so the problems, like, tell me, like, let's just start with a little bit of tell me why you're here. What's the problem? Put it in the chat. I said I felt like I hit on a pain point. What's the pain point? And Robin, you have to just tell him how awesome I am. He is great. He was just in town. My family every year, we have this big crawfish boil, and that was last Saturday, and he came in town. 250 pounds of crawfish in my backyard. Okay, so let's just talk. I know. Let's just talk about what's in the. What is the problem? Your bagels are so cute. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Oh. Okay, but I'll show them off and then I'll take it off. Is this better?
Yes, okay. That's much better, Maryanne. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Our board is verbalized as uncomfortable with fundraising, right? Getting my board to want to help. The board seems engaged during the meeting, but is largely MIA between. I've heard that before. I did a workshop Tuesday, and that was one of the things they said. 5% or 10% is generated by board members. That's not bad, but you want to do better. That's okay thing too. All right, they want to help, but they're reluctant. So it's like they want to do it, but then they get nervous and then they don't. Okay, they think fundraising is dirty or somehow not inclusive. Ooh, you can't raise what you resent. Okay. All right. Okay, this is great. All right, so.
Maryanne, can I interrupt you for a second? Sorry. I think is the microphone close to your necklace? Because I think that's what
Hold on. I don't have a necklace, but I think that could be is this better?
Yes, thank you.
Was that okay? I had this other headphones on. All right. I speak in a mic, so. All right, Mary, let's just pull the slide down for a second because I want to share some content about what the problem is. So I want to share what the problem is from your side, is this resistance. I want to share what I hear from board members about what the problem is on their side, and which is they feel pressure. It feels heavy. Fundraising feels like it's like I just like put my hands on my chest because I feel the pressure, right? Like they don't know what to say. They don't know when to say it. They don't know how to ask. They don't know when to ask. And under that is fear. So I use these three words a lot: ineffective, rejected, or pushy. No one wants to feel those things, right? And so part of what we're going to do today is help them alleviate those fears of being ineffective, rejected, or pushy. No one likes to be rejected. No one likes to feel pushy, right? Like that's nothing anyone wants, right? To have. So we want to be able to have them serve in a way that we can move away from those feelings, but they feel like they have to have just the right thing to say or all the facts, right? I don't have enough information. What if they ask a question? And I think the biggest hesitation is they don't want you to, like, they're protective of their friends and their contacts and their colleagues. They don't want you to solicit their colleagues or their contacts because they don't want their people to feel pushed, right? So if you can, what we want to do is not dismiss those fears, but say, I don't understand why you can't just make a phone call or give me a list. What we want to do is lean into those fears and give them a way to work through them. We can't go around, we can only go through those fears, to be able to connect more with donors. And what I'm going to share with you is what I have found to be the best way to incorporate donors into the fundraising process in a way that alleviates a lot of this pain and allows them to show up in a more productive and exciting way. I wanted the three higher human needs we have are connection, right? So a need to connect with something greater than ourselves, growth, a need for personal professional growth, new challenges, always learning, and then contribution. That means giving back. And by using the techniques I'm going to share with you, they are able to connect, grow, and contribute at a higher level. And those three things can be very powerful. And so what becomes a chore now can be exciting and a way for them to not just give to the organization, but to grow in their skills and to grow in their communication and leadership skills themselves. I'm going to tell you the truth. Like I'll always tell you the truth, but I'm going to tell you that I am surprised how much, I want to say hand holding, but that's not quite the right word. It takes some dedication and some training. We just can't say, oh, hey, go do this. It takes a little more. I had to be reminded the other day, because like all these successful people, and most people on our boards are successful business people, connected people. Like, why can't you just like have a conversation? And I have to remember that just because I'm successful in one arena doesn't mean I'm successful in another, or I know how to translate those skills, or I feel comfortable doing that. So that's what we're going to work on. Because here's the thing, and this is for all of us, okay? The thing that we don't want to feel is, rejected, ineffective, or pushy. That brings up feelings of guilt and shame. Guilt being what we do, shame is of who we are. And these rejections can trigger some deep things in us that we want to avoid. So we're going to talk about how to understand that and relieve that and give them a new way of doing this, that basically you can't screw it up. You just can't screw it up. Okay, Mary, you pop the next slide up for me. And Mary's also going to put the questions in the Q&A. We're going to monitor those. Mary, after I do this little bit of intro, I'll pause and we'll take a couple questions, okay? So what we often want is a magic wand. We want this magic wand of, this is the one that's going to, if they just had a brochure or talking points, or if they had the perfect elevator pitch, then it would be okay. And there's really no magic wand. There's no one solution. The closest thing that I know that to a magic wand is, this has more to do with you than you may realize at this moment. If you're hesitating on the fundraising, if you want them to do it because you're afraid to do it, if you want them to up level and like step out of their comfort zone, you have to be the model for what you seek. Good leaders go first. You want to be the change. You want to be the model and exemplify the change that you seek. And also you want to raise your standards. And I'm going to say something, because I did an email the other day about being liked or valuable, and I'm here to be valuable, that we have to raise our standards, because somewhere along the way, it became okay for our boards to kind of not be effective. And there's something in us that's like, well, I don't want to bother them, or I don't want to push them. So we have to raise our standards. Hey, you are worthy of an active board. You are worthy of support. And when we raise our standards and we say, hey, we're not going to go below this. This is who we are as a board. So things like this are designed to raise the standards, but it starts with you. So, and I'm not saying it's not your fault. I'm saying, how can you take ownership of the outcomes that you are getting? Because our pain comes, Mary, it's okay. Just our pain comes from the gap between who people are and who we want them to be. So this is all about leaning into who people are, not who we want them to be. And this is a good, I told you this is, you didn't know you were in group therapy today, but any part of your life, if we can love people for who they are, not who we want them to be. So instead of saying, I need my board to do this and do this and do this, it's like, we're going to switch our thinking. How can I make this the best board experience they've ever had? And how can I, because I have to get uncomfortable. I don't have to, I choose to grow in my skills, and because I'm going to raise my standards, and either people they're either going to meet them or they'll fall away. That's just it. And so this is all about not just your board, but you saying, enough of this, I deserve better. All right, next slide. Okay, so if you don't know me, I'll just give you a quick intro. I'm Maryanne. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. My company is Courageous Communication. And I've been doing nonprofit work since the early 90s. I don't know what you were doing, but that's when I got my first nonprofit job. I have a podcast called The Influential Nonprofit, YouTube videos, a book, which is over here over my shoulder, you can't see. And I'll just tell you that I've been working in marketing and fundraising for more than 30 years. And what I learned over the years is that the reason people aren't communicating effectively externally, aren't building the relationships they want, is not always because they don't have the right message. And I'm a words person. I love words. It's that they don't, they're not communicating effectively internally. And the internal communication has a lot to do with how we see our organization, how we value ourselves, the standards that we set for ourselves. I will say this, our culture is one that's rife with scarcity, right? There's never enough time. There is never enough money. And that can permeate our cultures, and that we have to sacrifice so others can have. And I want us to rethink that a little bit and to say, no, we're going to be the model for the change that we seek. And then instead of giving from the depths of the well, we give from the overflow. That's a Rumi quote. So we give from, and instead of giving from the depths of the well, we give from the overflow. We give from the place of excitement. We give from a place of generosity and a possibility, not of fear and scarcity. And I'm gonna talk, but that's really the underlying principle of this is abundance. There's enough out there for everyone. I don't have to hold on to somebody who's not a good prospect, because I know there's a better one out there for me somewhere. Okay, could you advance the slide for me real quick, Mary? I have a little freebie for you. If you go to nonprofit fundraisingguide.com, I have this really cool ebook called Stop Asking for Money. It's cool, some really cool lessons. And then I have 3 other cool little the limiting beliefs guide, and my other favorite thing, which is an abundance tracker. And this is a great exercise that you can do with your board or your staff or your development committee, where you write down every one thing a day that comes into your life, like some abundance, some money, like gift, whatever. And because again, we have the belief that there's never enough time, there's never enough money. And when you because that's the story we're telling ourselves. So that's the evidence we find. But if we tell ourselves a different story, we wind up finding different evidence. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second and check out these questions. Mary, will you just stop the share for just a sec? We have a lot of new board members that do not have any fundraising experience. How can we become ambassadors of our work? All right, Sam, I got you. I'm gonna. This will be addressed as we go forward. My board is a working board and is great at helping with events, but does not at getting us in front of businesses and big donors. Woo, check. Okay. My humble question is that can a startup organization for their board member? Okay. All right. And okay. All right. So I'm going to keep those questions for you because these will be revealed as we go. I am going to before I get into too much more of the content, I'm actually gonna draw on my notebook and share something with you. Okay. So, because this is really gonna put things together. Here's a couple of things is that, well, let me just do this. I'm gonna do this. Okay. So if I would ask you, what is the system by which you enroll new donors into your organization? What is that system? What does that pipeline look like? Because that's really important, because what can really shift is that donors understand exactly where they fit on this pipeline. So let me just go, and I my best friend in the whole world, my friend Jim, we've been friends since college. He's a brilliant fundraiser. Sorry, I wrote that wrong. He's a brilliant fundraiser. And I was showing him this model last night. He's like, whoa. And I'm like, right? Okay, so I have to do this again. So the first at the top of the funnel is awareness. We're going old school today, awareness. So this is like social media, publicity, event marketing, all of those things that are indirect contact, kind of big, broad base. But then there's interest. What does interest look like? And I'm going to do connection and action. Okay. So what is interest? Interest is the next step down the pipeline. That's attending an event. That's being on your email list, which is why email is so critical, right? And then there's connection. That's a small group experience or a one-on-one. So of course, farther down you get the funnel, the more direct the communication. And then there's action. That's when they actually make a commit to something. And this just doesn't all have to be fundraising, but for right now, we're going to talk about fundraising. Now, here's a couple of things about this model. Okay. I don't believe that it's a board member's job to ask for money. I think that is a high level skill that you learn over time. Right. And so what I think the best board member is finding people who are interested and see if they want to make a deeper connection. Because I know, and this is from my experience, and tell me if I'm wrong, but that you have the skill set that once you get people connected, you know how to move them to action. That's something you can do. Right. So I know how, but what we're looking for are leads. These are leads. They come from here, but they can also come from other places. So, or they come from here up here. And so we're driving people down this pipeline. And so basically, hey, all you have to do is see if people are find people who are interested and see if there's a connection. Now, oh, wait, that makes so much more sense. It also makes sense how communications and mission advancement or development work together, because you're forming a pipeline, and that every activity that you do needs to fit into one of these buckets. It's either generating awareness, interest, connection, or action. And if it's not, why are we doing it? Right? Like, why are we doing this? Okay. All right. I know I can't believe I'm drawing stuff on the thing. That's awesome. All my donors in the cult. All right. All right, Sally, that's great. Sully says our boards are not wealthy people with connections to other wealthy people. Most people aren't wealthy people with connections to other wealthy people. And so they raise a little bit of money, but what are the ways we can ask board members to participate in fundraising? I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. All right, Mary, can you throw up the next slide for me?
Sure.
All right, so here's the biggest thing. Let's shift our thinking. All right, everybody get ready, okay? You cannot make people care about your nonprofit. You cannot make somebody care. If I had that wand that let you do that, I would give it to you, and we would not be sitting here. You can't make people care. We don't market, sell, pitch, convince, push, because people hate to be sold. They love to buy, right? And I would love to see in the chat what that comes up for you when people say they hate to be sold, but they love to buy. All right, right. And so we can't make somebody care. There is no magic phrase, elevator pitch, or something that's just going to unlock somebody's um, um, caring, right? Um, why people care is about their own lived experience, what I call their philanthropic heart. Everyone has a philanthropic heart based on our lived experiences, based on our childhood, based on all of these things that make up. That's why we care, because we see our values reflected. And philanthropy or fundraising isn't about giving somebody money transactionally. It's about me as a person, as a donor. I want to align my assets with my highest ideals and values. And I'm doing that through an organization, not because of, but through. So a nonprofit is a conduit for me or for any donor to align their highest assets or their highest ideals and values with their assets. And it's not, and trust me, I'm a words person, right? But it's not what I say. It's how people feel. And yeah, they want the connection to be organic. Why people hate to be sold, they love to buy, is because we want to be in control. We want to make the decision. So in the way I use this, I'm going to teach you this model, is that that when we allow people to choose, they're more likely to choose what we want. Next slide, Mary, please. So what I teach is influence. Oh, sorry, that's it. People buy to the level they feel seen and heard. So our job is not to pitch, sell, convince. Our job is to that people will buy to the level that they feel seen and heard. And when you're connecting with people, what we do is, all I have to do is make them feel seen and heard. I don't have to pitch. I don't have to sell. I don't have to prove the case. I have to feel seen and heard, because when they feel seen and heard, they relax. And when they relax, they're more open to what we have to say. And this is simple brain chemistry, okay? And what I'm going to teach you is how to have what I call a connection conversation. If you go back to my model here, right? Going from interest to connection. So these are called connection conversations. And if I'm going to find somebody that's maybe interested, to see if they want to make a deeper connection. And if they do, that's great. And if not, that's totally okay. I don't have to sell them, convince them. See, what makes fundraising the stomach hurt is when you think you have to go from awareness to action in one conversation. That's what people think fundraising is, right? And so people have to know you to like you to love you to commit to you. And you can't, I mean, you could, but typically we don't ask somebody to marry us on the first date, right? There's a process, and that process is driven by the speed of the donor, not us. And when we respect people's rhythm and and how they want to move through, then when they get to choose, they're more likely to keep choosing what we want. And I know that sounds maybe counterintuitive, but the more decision making you allow people, the more likely they're going to choose what you want. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so I teach. Let me just say, what my focus is on influence, and by influence I mean getting people you have no authority over to do what you want them to do, right? And I know, hands up, right? You have people in your life that you have no authority over to get them to do what you want them to. That is what the board is, right? You don't have authority over them. And the board is kind of weird anyway, because they're above you and they're leading, but then you have to lead them, and it's a weird dynamic. I get it. So in influence, right, I am enrolling people in a vision, and it's not that they have to do it or they need to do it. It's they get to do it. They choose to do it. It's the energy of choice. I get to have conversations. I get to do this. That's a whole different energy than, oh my God, I have to call these people, right? Oh, I have to. And so when we use the skill of influence, and we are asking people to choose, and I'm allowing them to choose, but I want them to choose, that they're going to choose more of what I want when I allow them to choose, instead of assign them things and tell them what to do. All right. there's three things that I'm going to go into how to have these connection conversations. Okay. There's three things that we need, which is attitude, action, and accountability. All right. Three things we need: attitude, action, accountability. Attitude is how we think and feel. Action is what we do. And accountability is what we have. And as far as how can we implement this long-term over in our organizations. So and we need all three. So when somebody tells me my board won't do this, blah, 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 and I'm looking through this lens, have we dealt with, their attitude? How do they think and feel about fundraising? Somebody told me like, oh, they don't like it, or it feels dirty or uncomfortable. Like, okay, well, no matter what action I give you or what accountability we have, if that attitude if we don't deal with that, it's not going to work. So we have to look at all three. When I work with anyone, I look at all three, because we need all three to make change. And typically what's happening is you're only dealing with either attitude, action, or accountability. So I'm going to talk about attitude first. Okay. Mary, can you stop the share for just a second? If you've ever heard of something, so there's really three roles in that we need filled in here. Okay. And I want to make this really clear. And this is how we can help with the attitude. So there's three roles that we want to create. One is the role of or have as creator. That means this is gonna, I'll make this a triangle. Okay, so we're creator. The role of creator. The role of creator means I get to do or try something new. I get to have a new experience. Somebody put in the chat, my board's pretty good. They want to get better. I love that. Those are the people I work with the best, right? And we want to do better. We just don't know how. Great. Let's create. Let's be the creator, right? We're going to take ownership and create new experiences. But then we need a coach. Somebody's going to guide them and support them, hold their hand, hey, if it, help us, encourage them if they don't feel like they're doing it right, all of those things. But then we need a challenger, and that is about accountability. And I would say, in my experience, you can't be both challenger and coach. And this is where, in my experience, a board president or somebody on your board that will take and hold their peers, their fellow board members, accountable. And a lot of the times people say, my board is not, doing what I want them to do or whatever. I ask, what's your system of accountability? Oh, we don't have one. Okay, I'm just saying from my experience, and if you've experienced something different, I'd love to hear it. From a staff person, it's hard to have that level of accountability because ideally they're over you, right? So, and it's hard to be, the principal and the cheerleader, right? Like you get to be one or the other, and so those two together, having a coach and a guide, and then having a challenger, somebody to hold them accountable. And I'm not saying call them out in a mean way, but call them in a nice way. Like, hey, it looks like you're like struggling to have your connection conversations. How can I help you? Blah, blah, blah. Right? We're supporting them along the way. Remember, how can I make this the best board experience you ever had? So let me go back really quick, because I want to share. When this is the math, okay? How do you get your board chair to take position of holding my board accountable? All right, well, Michelle, I feel like that is the role of the board chair, is to, help support everyone in doing the job that they committed to doing. Let me keep talking. At the end of this, I'm going to invite you into a conversation with me. And if there's something you want to talk about a little more deeply, I'm happy to talk about that with you, to get in what that resistance would be. So a connection conversation. Let's do the math. If your board said, this sounds like a pretty cool idea, and we would commit to having one connection conversation, which means having one person in their orbit that they connect with to see if there's any interest, right, in creating a deeper connection, and they pass that name on to you. Like if you had 15 board members, that'd be 15 names a month, right? That'd be almost a couple hundred. I can't do the math out of my head. names a year that are coming to you. Now, not all of them are going to be winners, right? And everyone's going to have a great experience. So the whole point of a connection conversation is, and the attitude piece is, I am only seeing if there's affinity. If there's affinity, great. If not, that's okay too. I don't have to make, pitch, sell, convince, nothing, because that doesn't work. It makes people defensive. It makes people shut down. All I'm saying is, hey, here's what what are your interests? What are your goals? Here's our interests. Here's our goals. Is there a connection? Great. If not, great. Let's pass it along. If not, that's okay. That's okay too. Donna, I don't like give and get levels. And if you follow Sherry Quam Taylor, she does a lot about this, but I think it makes fundraising transactional, and it focuses on how much money we raise, instead of how building a community of support and being of value to people. I'm not going to get too much into that, but Sherry does. But the bottom line is, it makes fundraising transactional. And what we want is to create connections in the community. So let's say the board says, okay, if they were willing to have one connection conversation a month, how many leads that would be driving to you, and that they are holding themselves accountable to doing this. The goal is that this just happens, right? Once they get it up and running, they're going to be maintaining it, not you, right? And then now it just becomes a standard practice of your board, right? It just becomes a standard practice. Like, oh, hey, this is what we do in our board service. And our board service, they this is how you participate in the board. Oh, and we'll teach you how to do it. It's no big deal. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go back to attitude for a minute. Attitude, action, accountability. Remember, attitude. First and foremost, and this is a beautiful, if there's one thing I would love for you to take away from this conversation, is release the outcome. Release the outcome. And what does that mean? It means no matter what happens, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm already okay. I don't need anything. I can hold space for, man, I'd love for this to happen. And also, I'm okay. And that my job is to make people feel seen and heard, even if that means that that's not a good connection for us. I can't make anybody do anything, because when you allow people to feel seen and heard for who they are, not who you want them to be, they will trust you and remember you. So even though whatever you have to offer, your sponsorship or your involvement, whatever, may not be a fit for them, they are going to be like, oh my gosh, that wasn't for me, but you should check them out because they are amazing. So as long as people walk away feeling seen, heard, and understood, you can't go wrong. It'll only benefit you, even if it doesn't in the moment. Okay. So release the outcome. You can't mess it up. Whatever happens is okay. You don't have to make anything happen. In fact, the more you want something to happen, the less likely it will happen, because people smell desperation. They sense the need. And I know you've been in these situations. They sense the need, right? Yes, I can role play a connection conversation. I'll do that in just a second, a little bit. But let me get through these. Okay. So, we release the outcome, right? That's number one, right? We don't have to pitch. We don't have to ask. All we have to see is if there's an alignment, if there's affinity, if there's interest, we're cool, right? If not, that's okay too. And remember that, and we so focus on what we're going to say, and it's really not about what we say. It's how we show up. It's the energy. And when you show up confident and calm and relaxed and open, people will sense that, and they want to be a part of that, rather than feeling needy or feeling like you have to get somebody to do something. Because when you do, what happens is, they're like, ooh, I don't know. Because remember, desperation has a smell. And the more decision making I give the other person, the more likely to decide. So I say things like, I'm so grateful to meet with you. I'm excited to get to know you and to share our organization. And we'll see if there's some affinity. And if not, that's okay too. And however, or you can say, or whatever you decide to do is totally okay. Ideally, I want people to, I want to get to know as fast as possible, because my job is to spend the most time on um, the most qualified prospects. Um, Aside from this, what I feel is we tend to have fantasy relationships where people are, we're afraid to hear no. So we hear like, we'll accept the, let me think about it and get back to you, or we'll accept, well, can you send something over and I'll think about it. And then, oh, shocking, we never hear from them again. I'm going to teach you how to get out of that at the end of this. So you can stop that cycle. So when we're willing to hear a no, it's actually super productive, because like, hey, not a fit, great. Bless and release, right? Love you, love that, hey, I get it. And maybe we can circle back next year. Can I put you on my email list? But other than that, you can let them go. All right, let me talk about action. All right, connection conversation. What does that look like? That looks like three things, okay? One is doing exactly what I said before, which is what we call setting the stage. So all we're asking them to do is say, hey, I would love to connect with you and see if there's any affinity, and, or see how, like, one of the phrases I like to use a lot is to see how we can support each other's work, or, to see if there's any alignment or any ways we can work together or something like that. And so the first thing is they're going to show up and with curiosity, because I've released the outcome. I can just be open and curious. If I have an agenda, if I need you to do something, I'm looking at you through that lens, and I'm only listening, not only, but I tend to listen more towards the things that are going to serve my needs, not what's really happening. So we open with, they just say, I'm so glad we're here. I want to do a lot of listening. I want to hear what's going on with you. I'll share a little bit about what's going on with me and how I work with this organization. And if you want to know more about how to get involved, that's great. If not, that's totally okay too. It's always good to meet new people. And then that's how they started. And then from there, the second part is listening. And that just takes compassion. All I have to do is listen. I don't have to pitch them, sell them. And I know this sounds so crazy, but I swear it is so powerful. Listen and validate. So what I'm hearing is, oh, last year was a rough year for you. Business went down, and instead of thinking about what can they do for me, how can I be of service to you? Because when I'm of value to you, you'll be of value to me, right? How can I make this the best board experience you've ever had? Oh, and what are you looking to do to support your work? Well, we're looking to get some exposure or some, I'm just making this up. Like, we want to get some foot traffic. Oh, maybe there's a way you could work together to generate foot traffic, because what you want is to find an opening. And an opening means where something that you need and something we have fit. And I don't have to say, this is not about, oh, here's 11 ways you can get involved in our nonprofit. Why don't you take a look and see if anyone, no, I have those and I know those, but I'm setting those aside because I'm listening to see what your needs are. And so if somebody says, we love episodic volunteering, my staff really enjoys it, it's a great morale booster, and you're a nonprofit, you're on the board or staff, and you do episodic volunteering, you say, oh, that's something we do. I'd love it. Would it be okay if I shared a little bit about what that looks like for us? Because now I know what their needs are. I can't meet your needs until I know what they are. So we set the stage, right? And with that introduction where we say, whatever you decide is totally okay. We listen. And then from there, if there's an opening or if there's alignment, then we say, hey, there's opening, there's alignment. I'd love to pass your name along. Or sometimes this work, however it works for you, maybe the three of you, like you turn you over to a staff person, or the three of you may get together. And so all I'm doing is saying, if there's affinity, if there's excitement, let's keep talking. If not, that's totally okay. It's great to get to know you. And it's great to share your organization's story with someone. That's it. That's all they have to do. All they have to do is have a meaningful conversation. And I know everyone can do that. Okay, let's pop the slides back up, because we have attitude, action, and accountability. I'm going to check the chat here, see what we're talking about. Well, okay, so you mentioned this is how we do board service. Can you share more about the structure of what you tell your board directors they will be doing, agreeing to? No, I can't, because they agree to it. And that's the thing, they choose. And so if I say, this is what you're required to do, they go, what? But if they say, yeah, we could do this. Yeah, I think, yeah, let's try it. Okay, great. But after they try it, and then it becomes a part of their, just a part of the structure. So that's when we say, now, right? Yes. How do we, this is what you're, here's, you, right? So there's two parts to board service. Here's how we're going to help you, and here's how you're going to help us. Here's how we're going to support you and make this the best board experience you've ever had. And here's how you can support us. And, you know, and it may be, you know, whatever other requirements they have, showing up to meetings or whatever. And another way that you participate in board service is we do these monthly connection conversations, and we'll show you exactly how to do it, and we'll support you all the way along the way. Here's the thing, most people are doing this anyway, right? They're out, they may be out at coffee or whatever. They don't, you know, and they say, oh, I'd love, you know, they're, oh, I'm working on this board and it's so awesome. Now we're just doing it with intention and with some accountability. So let me talk more about accountability. We need three things to create accountability. One is the commitment, right? And I can't tell them what to do. It's they choose. Remember, it's the choose. When I let people choose, they're more likely to choose what I want, because I'm using influence. I don't have authority. And ideally, even the people I have authority over, I want them to choose. So a commitment. And it takes, and I'm going to say this true up. Remember, I don't want to be liked. I want to be valuable. It takes a year. It takes a year to make meaningful change. So just hold on, hold with them, stay with them. It takes a year to really implement something for the long term. So it, you know, like, oh, we tried that for a month or two. Okay, well, let's keep trying. At the end of the year, if they're still not, okay, we can talk about that. But change takes a commitment. There's no wand. We just have to stay in it. The second thing is prospect list. So one of the things as a coach, as the role of coach that you can help them with, is developing a prospect list. Because like, well, who would be good people, and giving them a list of maybe 20 to 25 people so that they don't have to start over every month, right? Like, oh, who should I talk to this month? You know, like, oh my God, they just like, oh, I have this list, so we can pull up the list. The third thing is some sort of data transfer system. And I don't care what it looks like, a sync doc, a Google doc, or something where because what I don't want is for them to go meeting with people and then the information never get back to you, because that's not helpful, right? So it's in a very, very simple spreadsheet or doc or something that they just drop in the name, an email or some kind of contact, and maybe just a little bit about the conversation and the next steps. Something, and because they're only doing this once a month, so it's going to be really easy. So then at board meetings, you pull up that Google, so they can say, hey, how are we doing on our connection conversations? Is there anybody specifically we want to highlight or talk about? Right. So that is the three things. I think we need commitment, we need prospect list, and some sort of data transfer. And then and that commitment, or that comes from a board member, the board chair, or the fundraising person, or whatever. Now, every board meeting, you're going to, for the fundraising conversation, you can pull up, how are we doing with our connection conversations? And you can reflect back to them. So you want to say, oh my gosh, thank you for bringing me this person. I'm so excited. We met last week and they're going to, be sponsoring our event. So that they can see that what they're doing is working. And so they are getting feedback like, wow, I'm really making a difference. And that's going to inspire them to keep going, even if it gets hard, even if they're having a busy month. And listen, it's not perfect. Okay. It's fine. This ideally, like our goal is once a month. Right. And my job is to support you and help you do that. But now you're just driving leads to me, but they don't have to ask for anything. They don't have to ask for money. They don't have to act. All they have to do is connect. And if there's affinity, pass the name on. So I mentioned my friend Jim, who's a brilliant fundraiser, and he is raising 1.7 million for an exhibit at the History Museum in St. Louis, where we're at, and they have like 5 years, and he's on this committee, and the committee is raising this money. And he was saying, we spent 2 years building awareness and interest. And now we have all these people who are interested, and we're feeding all the leads to the staff, right? And it's been a great experience because now the staff has some great leads to follow up on, and then to start then enrolling people in this conversation. All right, I'm a College Foundation, a board member invited a fellow alum for a tour, and giving back has not been mentioned so far, so he may just be thinking of it as a trip down memory lane. I have some thoughts about how I'll broach the subject during the tour, but I'll take additional suggestions. So remember I was talking about an action, we need 3 things: curiosity, compassion, right? Like having people feel seen and heard, and a little bit of courage. So that little bit of courage could be, wow, it seems like this has been really great. Would you be interested in talking about maybe investing in some opportunities? And again, always giving people permission to say no. If it's okay with you, remember that if it's okay with you, I'd love to maybe talk with you about becoming a donor, what that might look like. Or you can say, hey, that when we were at this building, your face kind of lit up. I would love to share with you some programs that we're working on. Maybe you'd like to contribute. And whatever you decide is totally okay, right? If there's anything you could pick up, whatever you decide is totally okay, because it gives them permission to say no. And when I give them permission to say no, then they're more likely to be curious, right? Ideally, the expression of having a connection card should be discussed as an organization, as bringing in new board members. Yeah. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, I have a little bonus for you. I got some more questions or feedback here. I'm looking at the chat. I'm checking the chat real quick, everybody. I'm gonna just, what are you thinking? Is this making sense? How are we doing? I know this is resonating because I'm seeing by the comments. So I'm gonna give you some bonus, okay? This is gonna change your life. You ready to change your life? I'm gonna change your life. Okay, thank you, Jack. Okay, so the bonus is how to, if you feel like you have all these planes circling the airport, right, and you can't land the plane, people don't get back to me. People don't, they say they're interested and I email them and they don't get back, or I call them and they don't call me back. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? So sometimes, right, and I'm not saying all the time, I'm saying sometimes, friends, because we're all friends now, that people say, let me think about it and get back to you, because they're afraid to say no. They like you. They don't want to disappoint you. They don't want to seem uncharitable. They don't want to seem greedy. So they say, can I think about it and get back to you? Or they say, can you send me some stuff and I'll look it over? And you go, well, they didn't say no. This is exciting. Maybe they'll say yes. And also, thank God I didn't have to hear a no, because I surely didn't want to hear a no. So you believe them and you send the stuff over and you never hear back, and you're calling, oh my gosh, can't land these planes. All right, so remember, I want to raise your standards. This is how you're going to raise your standards. You're going to raise your standards and you're going to say, enough of this, I take my power back, right? You're giving your power away. So how do we take our power back? When they say, can I think about it? Absolutely. I would love for you to think about it. Is there anything right now that that you're thinking about that maybe I can address? And, they may have some concerns or whatever. And then, or they say, well, yeah, I'm really interested, but I need to talk to the partners, or I need to talk to my wife, or I have to check the budget or whatever. Great. That's fantastic. When are you going to be talking with your partners? Oh, we have a meeting every month. So it'll be, next week. Awesome. Why don't we set a time for the week after, and we can see where you are in your decision-making process. So we're going to set the next meeting in the meeting. Whatever that next step is, the follow-up is said in the meeting. Not, oh yeah, we'll get back to me when after they meet. Why don't you get back to me? Where the follow-up is in the meeting. This will change your life. And you're gonna be like, oh, if they hesitate, remember, your job is to get to know as fast as possible. If they hesitate, you say, I'm sensing some hesitation. If this isn't for you, that's totally okay. I get it. It's not a thing. It's so great to meet you. And if it is, I'd love to just get something on the calendar to keep the conversation moving forward. It makes it a lot easier. We don't have to go back and forth via email. We both have our calendars right now. Let's just set something. 95% of the time people go, okay, and they put it on their calendar. If they're like, well, I'm not sure, then that's when we can go a little bit deeper. Is what's I'm sensing some hesitation. Is there something I can help you with? And because if this isn't for you, I totally understand. Now, here's the trick, my friends. Here's the trick. You can't say it to other people. So if somebody's coming at you wanting, to sell you, something, a website or something, because that's what I sold for many years, and just say, that's not for us right now. Thank you so much. Oh, hey, no problem. Right. Can you just send me something, knowing that you really aren't going to do it? You just don't know how to say no. So when you say no and you're in alignment with that, and then you're giving other people permission to say no, because if not, we're just creating these fantasy relationships that really aren't going anywhere, but everyone's too polite because they don't want to disappoint people, which is actually very, very kind, but also really not helpful. And if you're not afraid to hear a no, then you will accept that. Because, hey, if that's not for you, great. Now I can go spend more time on people who may actually do it. But I'm spending all my time on the folks that aren't really the right fit. Now, when you when the board is in these connection conversations, they often can't set the next meeting in the meeting, but they can definitely define the next step. Right. So, or they could possibly, I'm not, it just depends, but let's just say they're meeting with something and then they're going to pass it to the staff. So what I'm going to tell you that speed sells. So say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can't wait for you to meet like our event coordinator, Dana, whatever she's working with on the sponsorships. And then you're going to follow up, my pretend person, Dana, is going to follow up really quickly after that. Okay. One more slide. I have 3 minutes left. I want to say, if I have 11 spots open on my calendar from now until, because we have the holiday, so I'm going to start after the holiday. I open up 11 slots on my calendar. If you are interested in connecting with me, if what I say resonates with you, if you like my style and like my approach, you can. I have 11 spots open. I'm happy to share with you. Again, if you want to talk about what it's like to work with me, that's great. If not, that's okay too. But if your board is ready, to see if your board is ready for the lead gen training, because what I look for are boards who are like, we're doing good and we want to do better, like who really want to learn. I can't teach people who don't want to learn. That doesn't, that's not going to work for you or me. And also I'm happy to dive in a little bit more deeply to some of the issues that we talked about today. So if you remember, when I started this presentation, I said, I'm going to make a promise to you. And the promise is that you'll have a new framework and a new understanding about how to engage your board in your fundraising. And my question is, did I make that promise? Oh my gosh, I'm a little nervous. And you can just put some thumbs up in the chat or whatever. I was enrolled in the earlier training, getting your database ready. That wasn't for me. I think that's for Sarah or Mary. I'm not. Okay. Right. Okay. Yay. Thank you. All right. We're going to release the outcome. We're going to embrace, the no, because it's going to allow you to spend more time on more qualified people. And it's going to help you engage board members, see them for who they are, not who that you want them to be, right? Meet them where they're at and then take them. Instead of asking them to meet you up here, you're going to go down, maybe down or over, and connect with them and teach them how to do this. Okay. All right. All right. That is me. One minute.
Oh, this is great, Maryanne. Thank you so very much.
All
And
right.
thank you to everyone for engaging and participating. Lots of great questions and conversation here today. So again, huge thank you to Maryanne. We really appreciate it.
And thanks for everyone for playing along on my iPad today. I appreciate it. I appreciate all the support.
Of course. Okay, so to wrap things up here, just a couple final housekeeping things. If you'd like to receive more information from Maryanne, she's provided the ability to do that. But if you'd also like to learn more about Bloomerang, Sarah just launched a poll question a moment ago. Definitely engage with that. Wanted to let you know, save the date. Our next webinar is on June 1st. Marcy Heim is joining us and she'll talk.
Oh, I love Marcy. She's awesome.
And she'll talk about no nonsense must-haves for major giving success. So
All
thank
right.
you so very much.
Can you put that link in the chat just one more time? And the link to my calendar. And if anybody wants to connect with me, I'm happy to do that. I've got about 3 more spots left.
Great, Sarah, if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. And there was a question here in the chat a moment ago about a previous training session.
I think we got that answered.
Terrific. All right, everyone, have a fantastic day. Thank you.
All right, bye-bye.